Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Coro Chronicles. Today, I have the wonderful Lori Snow joining us, and I want to dig right in. Lori, introduce yourself to our followers, people who may know you and people that are going to get to meet you today.
Sure. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks for asking me to be a part of this. I hope people find it interesting. I'm Lori Snow. I've been in the senior living world now for over 20 years, which, it's kind of hard to say that, but yeah, it's 20 years. I started working in a community. I was lucky enough when I was in my late 30s to step back and say I wanted to make a career change, and I really wanted to do something that felt good. And started off working in a senior living community, a small AL memory care. And then from there, worked with IN2L as marketing director and salesperson. Jack York and I kind of split the country in half and marketed and sold IN2L for over a dozen years. And then from there, ended up with Spiro 100, which does fitness. So I've always been in the senior living engagement technology space for the last 20 years and just passionate about that. And I can bring some real insight from the vendor side and what has all happened in the space.
I mean, it's interesting because you're already kind of jumping into the first question of, like, I didn't even know that you started off at a community. So what was it, kind of digging into that a little bit, but from working in a community those years ago when you were in your 30s, that from yesterday to today, like, kind of what are things that you're seeing the difference of between the two?
Yeah, so it was interesting, and because my background was, I'd been a small business owner. I owned my own retail store for a number of years. Prior to that, I was in the banking industry and insurance and very tech savvy kind of industry. And even running a small business, you have to have the technology to run the business. And then when I shifted and I said, I really want to work with elderly people, my heart always from a little girl on, I just have been drawn. I always wanted to sit with the old people, like the holidays and gatherings. I always wanted to listen to their stories. I was just drawn to old folks, and now I'm an old folk, so I can say that very respectfully. So I walked into senior. I looked this is when you look for jobs in newspapers, right? And I looked.
I remember those days.
Yeah, and there was a senior living community being built not far from my home, and I just walked in and said, I want to work here. I didn't know what skills I was going to bring to them because I didn't have a healthcare background, but they hired me to help fill the building. So I was doing marketing and sales for this 80-person memory care community, and watched the building being built, helped the families that had loved ones in the area that they were looking for a place for, talked to hospital personnel, the discharge planners, went to the churches in the area, to all those places that you go where you're saying, hey, if you have an elderly person who needs help or a family that needs help, we have resources. So I was doing that, and I was immersed myself in the messaging that this community, this was a small chain. They had 8 different buildings through northern Illinois and Wisconsin, and immersed myself in their corporate messaging that went out, and was telling the families, we're going to do all these wonderful things. This is how we're going to take care of your mom or dad or aunt. And then the building opened and people were starting to move in. And I'd been there about 3 months and just realized that not everything, but most of what I had been telling the families and promising them, it really wasn't happening because they just didn't have the resources. And it's not that they didn't want to, it's just a lot of what I was promising, which was they still were going to be able to be connected spiritually to their faith. We were going to make sure they got exercise. We were going to keep them engaged and happy and connected to loved ones. And we were going to do all these things because it was in our brochure. And then when folks started to move in, all of that fell on the shoulders, almost all of it fell on the shoulders of the engagement person. And she didn't have the tools. So real quickly, like like I said, within the first 3 months of me being there, I just realized there's things missing here. We can do this better. This can really be better. And I went to a conference. I was invited to a conference and saw IN2L. And I was like, oh, here we are. Here's a tool. This makes sense to me. This has the things that we say in our brochure, and it's all right there in a packet. From there, it was kind of history. I flagged Jack down when he was walking through a lobby, and I said, you have to tell me about this thing. We need this thing where I'm working. And he came and did a presentation, and his presentation was not really received by the people that I worked for. And I told him, I said, I think we need to simplify the message. People aren't quite understanding what this technology can do because it was so new. People just were using technology for engagement in senior living.
What were the challenges from the community that you were working at? Where was the disconnect for them?
I think it's a big disconnect that we still see today is that this isn't the way we do things. We don't do engagement that way. People don't want to do their fitness from a screen. They don't want to watch a church service on a screen or my activity. We don't have the budget. We don't want to put money into it. The care staff didn't even have their own computers. They didn't have their own tablets. So how even would it work? It was just one shared machine. So it was just, the need was there, the technology was there, but the infrastructure, there wasn't even Wi-Fi in most of the buildings, right? And a lot of transitions that needed to happen. But yeah, budget was a big one. And just the disconnect about how actually would the staff use it and how would residents receive it? That they weren't open to, we can do things differently, which has changed.
How many hours do you think that you witnessed that an activities director or an engagement director had to work to try to take on 80 residents and all of these needs?
Yeah, it was pretty sad. The budget, it was her budget. And I was only in that environment for a very short time. Wasn't years and years and years, but her budget was the one that I worked with. Her budget was very small. She had a little bookshelf with some games on it and funny hats and I want to say there were DVDs, but I honestly think it was VHS back then. Not even sure. She had some movies, puzzles, children's games. That was her grab and go content. And there was a shared computer in the reception area that she had to go and share it with the nursing staff and other staff. And how much time did she spend? I know she would call clergy. This would really speak to Coro. She'd call and try to coordinate getting clergy to come in and say a mass. And half the time they had a conflict. Something came up and they couldn't make it. And so I don't know. It was really difficult.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Yeah. So here you are now. You've had that experience. You've now met the infamous Jack and now being a part of IN2L. Kind of tell us a little bit about that journey.
It was a lot of overcoming making the sales case that this can really help. This can be a really cool tool. And yeah, it's going to take a little figuring out. You got to figure out how to get Wi-Fi to different parts of the building. And yeah, we got to train staff and get staff comfortable with using technology. And this was a time when not everybody had a cell phone in their pocket. There is a lot of messaging. There is a lot of sales calls and a lot of sending information out. So many vendors that I've met over the years all these conferences, hundreds and hundreds of conferences every year we would go to, and we'd meet other vendors in the space like Coro, and everybody has kind of that similar story. Like, why are you in the senior living space? And everybody has that grandparent or that aunt or uncle or somebody that was really influential, and they have that big heart for the elderly. So they want to help. And their way of helping isn't actually working in a community because they don't have that healthcare background. But their way of helping is, hey, I've invented this thing that I know would have helped my grandpa or my grandma or my aunt or uncle. And it really is a good thing and it'll help you. And I see such a big heart on the vendor side. And a lot of times I feel like it's perceived as, oh, somebody's calling me because they want money. Like, all we want to do is sell our product and make money. And there's a partnership there. There's a common goal there to take care of people. It's just from a different angle. And I like that message to get across.
Part of that message, like you just said, it's like at one point, Spiro and Coro were competitors, and we were competing for those same slivers of a budget. But at the end of the day, Mark, you, David, myself, we had a friendship and we believed in what the other was doing and that we knew each other's stories. And we knew that this wasn't just some kind of entrepreneur, like I'm going to like winning the lottery. This is like, we're trying to make an impact. And I think even that for people, they don't realize or just haven't thought it through that we're competitors, that we're friends because of the heart that we all had. And it was like, let's combine and join and pushing that whole initiative of like making a difference instead of making a difference piece by piece. It's like coming together, which I still think is such a beautiful story.
Yeah, absolutely. You said that's very well said. And it's not to say that there aren't companies coming into the space because they see, oh, the boomers, the silver tsunami is coming, and here's a big financial opportunity where we've got a big marketplace here, we can make some money. Obviously, that's happening too in the space. But if you look at these, I don't know, I want to say the smaller vendors, especially on the engagement side, because I have to speak, that's what I know is from the engagement side, all the people that are doing a plethora of different wellness dimensions of engagement. They're all little startup companies that have been here creating this great content that they think will really make a difference. And I don't think anybody that started those did it because they think they're going to be Steve Jobs or they're going to end up having an Amazon type business, but they're doing it mostly because it's the right thing to do. It feels good in their
right thing.
Yeah, they need to make a living and provide for their families, but it's and I think anybody is, if you're in this industry, get rich quick and have it. It's not senior living.
Exactly. So what was it for you? Because now you're with Spiro and the bundle. So what was it for you now working with Spiro and being able to talk about fitness in a very different capacity than what had been traditional?
Yeah, so that's it's become really personal, the whole fitness part of it. And I know I've heard you speak about it from the music side, the whole dimensions of wellness. That became a hot topic in senior living a number of years ago. Everybody was doing, got to hit the dimensions of wellness. And, that you can picture that pie chart, right? With all the the slivers in it. And I've come now that I've been with Spiro and I'm now a senior citizen and I'm there, I think that wheel is wrong. I think it needs to be a triangle. I think it needs to be a pyramid, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Not that any is more important than the next, but there needs to be a foundation, right? It's just like you need basic shelter and food before you can think about spirituality, right? There's a basis there. And for that wellness wheel, I really think the foundation needs to be movement. Human beings need to move. We have to move to stay healthy. It all kind of stems from that. If you listen to any of the health gurus that are out there right now that talk about healthy aging, they all say first is exercise, first is movement, and then, good food and sleep, and then socialization and spirituality and all the other environmental things that we need to be happy and well, kind of build on top of that. But I don't feel like doing, if I'm hurting, if I'm not feeling healthy, I don't feel like doing very much, right? So we've got to keep people healthy and keep them from falling. And though that is first and foremost, exercise is the easiest and least expensive way to do that. So that's my soapbox on that. If I ruled the world and I had every senior living community could follow my direction, I would say, when you move in, tell me which movement, which type of exercise, which type of movement, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's walking, maybe it's gardening. Which one do you want to do? Not do you want to do one? Which one? You have to have something in the movement area, right? And then everything else can be a decision. You don't have to garden. You don't have to play pool. You don't have to do bridge, but there has to be some movement that has to come first. And we'll go so far in lowering our cost of care if we can just get some movement worked in. So that's important. But then who wants to live without music? Who wants to live without being spiritually nurtured? Who wants to live without connection to their family and friends? We all want that. That's equally important, right? So I don't think those should compete. I think we should be able to offer that. If you're moving into a senior living community, wherever you're going, that should all be available to you. All those needs on that wellness pyramid should be available. So if we've got these limited budgets and we're making people choose, that's not good. That's not the right way either. So we combine
that. The whole process of the pyramid makes so much sense to me. And I don't want our viewers to lose sight of even the story of the bundle, because you were a cornerstone in that creation. And I think even to this point, it would be easy to identify why you believed in this partnership with all of these different vendors.
Yeah, well, we couldn't when COVID hit, as horrific as it was, and nobody would say it was a good thing, but there were some positive things that came out of it. And one of them was that senior living became way more comfortable with technology. That was huge and extremely important, because it was so very needed, because simply because we just don't have the workers. So we've got to rely on technology. So that needed to happen. But something else personally for us, engagement bundle partners, is we had to leave senior living alone. We sent out some emails saying, hey, we have some technology that could help you, but they weren't in a place where they could actually adopt it and learn it and implement it. They were in survival mode. So Dave and myself and some others who've been in the industry a long time started to call each other. It was like, we've got time on our hands here, because we can't really be marketing or reaching out to our client base. We started talking to each other and said, why don't we come together? There's a lot of us who are taking credit for this idea. And I bet you there's a lot of people in the audience who are going to say, yeah, I had this idea too a long time ago. It's like, we got to roll this stuff up. We're all on the phones, even outside of COVID time. We're all on the phones messaging and marketing and setting up our booths at conferences. And we're all going at senior living executives saying, we're only $100 a month. You got to have this. This is important. You need us. And now they're trying to manage 10, 20 different vendors for their engagement stuff. And it's too much. I said, got to roll this stuff up, put it on an app. And I'm not a technical person, so I'm thinking this is easy. I'm like, let's just roll it up and put it on an app. We can do this.
Well, we
can do that. So I give great kudos to especially your IT person and Justin, Spiro's IT person, because they were like, yeah, we can do this. We can, and celebrate each individual company's greatness and what they bring to the table and sing their praises. Like, I don't want to put Coro. I didn't want Coro to be on the app, but just under something called music, because it's so much more. Coro has such a big story, and it's not a story that the engagement bundle can tell. It's a story that Coro has to tell, because it's huge, right? So I wanted that link to be made back to the companies. We're not going to bury anybody's name under some corporate label. We are the engagement bundle because we had to become a company, but we're just an accumulation of really outstanding cream of the crop engagement companies doing fantastic virtual travel and the reminiscence things that Beth Sanders has from Memory Bio and Memory Lane TV with their memory care engagement platform is so valuable. A lot of science behind it. It's just, and that's a story that you have to go to Memory Lane to really find out. Once you find out how great they are and all these other companies, you can get them all in one place. So it just made sense. You're like, let's do this. And we did. And luckily we're like early on, Sunrise understood it. They got it. They were looking for a music solution, but then saw the whole package and it was like, wow, they got it. And it's been really great working with them.
Yeah. Tell us a little more about that, because we were just engaging your story when you first started. And then now here it is, you're rolling out and the engagement bundle is now being used, and you're having these conversations with engagement directors who might have been years ago making phone calls and trying to strategize all this. And so now what you're able to offer and what now they're able to market and offer, saying, if you come to our community, this is what you have access to. So how's it been for you, not only as the engagement bundle, but also just for you personally to watch this transformation?
To me, it's sort of like, I don't know where else it can go. Like, I feel like, wow, this is kind of it. We've cracked the nut because we put all this wonderful engagement in one place that people can get anytime they want. I mean, the residents can have an app on their phone. All activity staff can get it on their tablet, on their phone, on their computer. It's anytime, anywhere, any device. I don't know where else this can actually go. It feels really good. That's how I feel about it. The infrastructure was there. It's not, hats off to Sunrise because they've got the Wi-Fi figured out. They've got all their staff have their tablets, their iPads ready to rock and roll. They have the technology infrastructure there. It was a matter of hitting a button and all 240 some communities rolled out in a snap. And yes, like I've never seen anything like that in 20 years. Never seen anything like that.
Wow, it's amazing. Even for us at Cora, we kind of went through the same thing of like, we would walk into a community and they were like, Wi-Fi, what? It was just early on. It was just, we felt like we were just hitting brick wall after brick wall. And you're right. COVID was a huge lift just because now they didn't have the staff that could come in, but they needed content and needed it to be accessible. And they started to figure out how to make it work versus there wasn't that sense of urgency before. It was like business as usual. And even for us over the last few years is that I think the other thing that I've witnessed is that whenever you said the word technology or you said the word device, people would just almost gasp because it was like, you're trying to take something away. You're trying to take away that personal touch. But honestly, it's the opposite of that. It's like the one thing last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had a music therapist on. And even with Tara, she explained, she's like, yeah, I'm a music therapist and I go to my communities, but eventually I have to leave. And so is it that the music
stops,
is turned off? Yeah, the music stops. And so, or like you were saying, like with a chaplain or bringing in a priest to do mass, it's like eventually the human person has to go. And so things don't have to be quiet. And like you were saying, it's like whether or not it's a phone or it's a smart TV or it's a tablet. I mean, back in the day, like you were saying, people didn't even come into a community with a cell phone. And now there was some study that I read not too long ago that a couple moving into assisted living will range about 7 smart devices that they bring with them.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard the number one app being downloaded by people over 65 are fitness apps. So that's a pushback I hear.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's a pushback I hear a lot is that, nobody wants to exercise to a video. Yeah, we do. I do at home.
I do. I did just yesterday.
There's a difference between screen time, TV time. Years ago, like 20 years ago, when we start first coming into senior living, right? And you'd walk into a senior living community, Jerry Springer would be on and people would be sleeping around the couch, right? So I think when you say technology or digital engagement, whatever, that's the thought. Oh, we're plunking people down in front of a mindless television show. Yeah. And it's so very different. The engagement technology we're talking about is so different from that. And it's not just passive watching. It's very interactive. The fitness videos, you're exercising to it, and your staff should be in the room exercising with and walking around and being hands-on, and the virtual travel is live, and the music, they're singing along. It's just an interactive tool to use. It's not plunking people in front of a screen. And it just makes such a world of difference in how people understand what the engagement bundle does, or digital engagement is all about.
And it's very true. It wasn't until you just said that, like, I remember hearing people refer to it as screen time, and that they didn't want their residents to have any more screen time. And yeah, you're exactly it. That's exactly it. Because we would walk into communities and it was either the news, the weather, or Jerry Springer that would be on. And that's screen time. This is something so different.
Yeah. It's like, what are you doing with the content that's on the engagement bundle? You're maybe watching a CuriosityU lecture on quantum physics, or the founding fathers, or milk production. There's all kinds of fascinating lectures on CuriosityU that it's very different than Jerry Springer. And even I have to plug Memory Lane TV, because that of everything that's on, one might think that's a little bit more passive, but there's so much science behind it. And for people in memory care who grew up with the television, right? And I like my TV time. I like watching my shows. I'm right now watching Georgia and Ginny, and I can't stop. I love to get into a good Netflix series. But Memory Lane TV is plot-free television, and it has cues in it. So for memory care, they're just short little snippets, no plot to follow, names to remember. So it's comforting for somebody who struggles with that. But it has reminders, it'll show waterfalls or people drinking water. So it helps with dehydration. As mealtime starts coming around, it'll show pictures of food and people eating, so to help stimulate feelings of hunger, which is what your music does. You have that same dining music, right? When it's at the end of the day, it starts to slow those rhythms down. I'll have pictures of things that are calming. So it takes people on a journey that are cognitively impaired. So it's not, again, is it screen time? Yeah. Is there a medical reason, or is there good science behind what they're watching? So very different. There is. So this is, and it takes a lot of messaging to get the buyer to understand that. A lot of times there's these preconceived, I even had somebody say to me, well, if I buy all this digital content, what's my staff going to do? It's like, they're going to use it. It's going to be their tool.
Yes.
You wouldn't ask the carpenter to build a house without his toolbox and his hammer and saws and things. It's the tools. We're pretty excited about it. We're seeing such great success with Sunrise and Oxford and North Star, and we've got some great usage data.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I think about what you were sharing with us, when you first entered long-term care versus what you're seeing today. And we did. I agree. We had to go through, I think COVID was horrible, but there was a silver lining for us, that where I can say it because we're two women, but it's like content is queen. And so being able to offer all of that. And I love like what you said, like we would get asked that too. Like, oh, you're trying to take away our chaplains, or trying to take away our music therapists and or our live performers. And it's like, no, we're not taking away anything, but these are just tools. And like you said, it's like you're hiring these people that you're investing so much in them to run these programs, but you also have to give them the tools to be successful in them. And you're also making these promises to families that are already carrying worry and guilt and concern and all of this. So it is, all of these things go hand in hand to create, just to create success and to increase the quality of life. Right. Not just the quality of life for the resident, but the quality of life for the staffers and the quality of life of the daughter who just dropped off her dad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, none of us like to do our job without the tools that make it easier. And a lot of times that engagement person has an area of expertise. They might be really great at art or music or fitness, but they're certainly not going to be expert in all the different areas, right? It's just, you can't, right? To have something like the engagement bundles and to have all that, not that you can't get it outside the engagement bundle, you can go out and find, and then they can spin their wheels and go and find all this stuff and go to the dollar store and the library and I don't even know where they find all this stuff that they have to dig up in order to create what could be right in the palm of their hands. So,
and that's one of the things that I know when I kind of was digging into all the partners a little bit and thinking about themes, just to be as an activities director, an engagement director, and being able to create something for, I don't know, if I wanted to do something for a week that was based on the 60s.
Yeah.
Like you can pull all of these pieces from all of these partners that are all supporting a theme of the 60s, which, I mean, that's right now with our elders. They were the people going to the Woodstocks. They were the people going and creating what cool was. Right. But then going into university, going and learning history of what was going on and the challenges during that time. Then going and taking a fitness class with the music in the background of songs that are familiar to them, of the old Bobby Sox days and everything. That was the one thing I loved. I loved the due diligence that the engagement bundle has put forth in who they partner with. Because like you said, there are a lot of people that have come into this space as of late, and they look at long-term care of like, oh, the silver tsunami's coming in, I'm going to offer this.
Right.
And it's very much, as I know personally, that the engagement bundle has really partnered with people that are heart-centered, that have a product because it came from a story. They have a product because they saw a need either personally, well, actually it was personal. And that, I guess that's the thing with the engagement bundle. It's not just engagement services, it's personal, and it's really personal to everyone.
Right. We're keeping, everybody kind of stays in their lane, which I think is important when you're really good at something, when you become the expert at it. It's like, not like, we do fitness, but boy, we see that there's a need for art. So now we're going to make art. No, we're not art. That's not art. We're just going to stay in our lane. But we found an art, we're adding Artful, a new company out of Canada that, they're new to us. They're not new. They've been in Canada and they've got a huge footprint up there, but they do all kinds of wonderful art programming. It lists the supplies, shows a video of how to do it. It's just, there it is, all right there for you. Again, interactive, not just watching. It's an interactive thing. But yeah, so it's nice that to bring the experts in and have them right there at your fingertips.
So if you could give a message to someone who's never heard about the engagement bundle, or maybe, okay, let's just backtrack. Someone who has heard of the engagement bundle, but hasn't engaged with you in conversation, what would you want them to take away from today? What would you want them to know about you and about what the engagement bundle is?
One-stop shop. You've got one bill to pay. You don't have to manage a bunch of different vendors. There's no long-term contract. You can pick the modules you want. It's totally customizable. If you don't need exercise, you don't have to pay for it. You put in the things that you want. All the vendors came in at a really discounted price. So you're going to save about 50% off of retail. We require 3 products are selected, but there's as many as 10 on the bundle. It's just a win-win-win. And it's so easy to use. There's other technologies that are necessary in senior living, the EMR, HMR, and then these, what are they called? These, I don't know what their name is. The technology that puts the signage and does the transportation schedule and the dining things are on there.
Oh, the digital signage for menus.
Yeah.
Like menus of activities, menus of
but there's all kind of wrapped up. Sometimes they put content onto the televisions. There's that, whatever that technology is, very important. And that's the TSOs and the touchdowns and icons and all those technologies, very important. And we do business with them. We love to integrate with them, and we are with some of them. And they have a handful of content, and that's great. And they should start to implement that content so that staff and residents can grab it. The thing about the engagement bundle is we don't do any of that technology. We're not in the message boarding and all that. We're staying in our lane. We are engagement. We are grab and go easy. It's just, it's a cute little button, and you just hit it and it opens up, and then you run with it. And if you want exercises, you hit the fitness button, and it's there. It's right there. So I don't use those other technologies, but I know that they're HIPAA compliant. So there's login things. There's usually a back end that technology people always say, super easy, super easy. Those back ends aren't that easy to navigate, right? They can do wonderful things. They can take attendance and they can feed into EMR, HMR records, and that's great. But if you don't have something like this alongside of it that staff can grab and go when they can't get into that system, or they're not comfortable, or they don't know how, or it's the weekend, or you want residents to have it on their own device, something like the engagement bundle just makes sense, and they can run in tandem with each other. Or some of those technologies I mentioned will have the entire bundle on them, so it'll all be there also. But having it outside of that more difficult technology, I think makes a lot of sense, because there are staff who English is not their first language. There's elderly folks who aren't comfortable with technology, who are going to need it this super simple.
Yeah, and you just hit on a great point too, is that we know in long-term care, there is a difference between staff Monday through Friday and staff on weekends. And that's itself been a huge challenge. And so being able to have access to these tools, and like you even said, it could be in the residents' hands, and it's even there for family visits. Like I remember one of my favorite things I ever witnessed and was a little boy coming in to visit his grandfather, and his grandfather, they were playing music trivia. Well, the grandfather didn't know how to navigate a tablet, but his grandson did. But the grandson didn't know how to answer any of the music trivia questions, because this was all part of grandpa's experience. But that's what it was, is they weren't talking about how's the weather, how was school. They were interacting, and they would pause, and his grandpa would tell him, or the grandpa would tell his grandson about, oh, I used to love that song, and I danced with your grandmother to that song. But it changes up even the family experience. Because let's be honest, I mean, for a lot of people, it still is when they walk into a long-term care community to visit their aunts or their parents, that it's like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? And now, like my dad, I know that whenever he goes into a long-term community, I know he's going to be all over University U. It's because that's where he is. He loves to learn. He loves to select, not just turn on the TV and whatever is at random. he has a specific topic and then he wants to investigate it all the way to the end.
Right. Yeah, there's something that comes to mind. IN2L did this project with the state of New York and Microsoft, and actually put computers, the touchscreen computers, in homebound seniors in Queens, New York. And yeah, it was a really fascinating project. And so you can Google it, on YouTube, and you'll see some clips. But there was, Microsoft did a little commercial, and they interviewed the people, the seniors that got to use those computer systems for the first time. And there were two people. There was one man talked about how he liked to use it and what he did with it. And he said, life isn't worth living without something to do. Which just wow, that was I was like I wanted to plaster that on advertising and everything. But I ran it up the flagpole, and everybody said that's too heavy. It's too grandiose. We can't use that to market our technology. But it was true. That's what the man said. It tears me up now. And yeah. So okay, we have to cut.
Oh, no, because that's it. That's the whole thing of that. We all have these stories over our careers.
Yeah.
Long-term care, but that's also the people that we carry with us. And I think that's the reason why it is emotional for you, because you still carry him. You still carry that. And that is, for me, there's a couple of people that I'll cry right along with you because they're in there. And so when we come in, or I'm doing a training, and anyone on here and that's taken my training knows that I get emotional, because I'm still bringing these people and these experiences with me, not just the reason or the purpose that got me here. I'm grateful for how I got here, but I am even more grateful for the people that I've met along the way. It's doing what's right.